Okay, let's do a quick mic check. All right, I think that sounds okay. Alrighty, we are going to start the stream off, hopefully with Dresden. He really, really, really wants to play right now. Of course, right as I start streaming is when he decides best time to start to play. Because he's a cat, and that's what they like to do, apparently. Low. All right. Dresden, baby boy. Say hi to everybody. Yeah, I know. This isn't playing. I recognize that, but I'm streaming right now. I already told everyone I was going to stream. I can't spend half an hour running after you right now. The little paws are flexing. He's like kneading my arm in the air. So cute. When my beard's not so long, he will lick my beard. Try and groom me, but too long for him now. So apparently this is going to be half of the stream today, just petting Dresden. Wasn't planning on this taking so long, but usually he wants to leave by now. Except for at night, where he comes and leaps on my lap. Okay, Tristan. Okay. Alrighty. It is very hot in here. I'm going to put my fan on and hopefully it's not too loud. But if it is, someone please let me know. I will try and adjust it. I have another fan I can use, possibly. Alrighty. Okay, I have to check something real quick. Um, okay. Okay, there we go. You know, it's so unfortunate because, like, all this right here is so much lighter in person than it is on my camera. I guess it depends on which screen or on the screen that you're looking at it. Because one of my screens is a lot darker than the other, apparently. Hmm, I don't know. I wish there was better, visual controls in OBS. So I just varnished this piece. I I, I put a uh very light coat of varnish on it so that it doesn't what's it called? Uh get tacky and give me a lot of problems and or beat up. But because of that, even though it's a glossy varnish, it doesn't give you that like, completely flat gloss look. It ends up looking a lot more like a satin because of all the texture of the paint. And I also varnished this one so that I can take photos of it and send it off to the charity. So I will be doing that this week. Just want to make sure the varnish is dry. Let's get my pellet out. When I varnish, I have to move my not my palette, but like basically I have to move things around when I varnish. So I've been thinking about it. The last not the last video I did, but Recently, my creative disorder made a comment in one of his videos that got me thinking. And I think in my next video, I might include like a clock or a counter of some kind to try and show how much time, the painting actually took versus the sped up aspect of it. Or maybe, if not that, then maybe some shots that are just at normal speed and not sped up. I don't know exactly, but I feel like his comment about the fact that people don't realize how much work it is because they see it sped up, kind of got me thinking about that. So, yeah, I don't know. Just a thought. Okay. So now, today, with this painting, there's a few things I need to do. There's a few small fixes I need to make, which isn't the biggest deal in the world. And, um, just some minor placement issues. Um, and then there's also, I have to, what's it called? I realized that I succeeded in doing certain aspects of this painting that I wanted to, but I also kind of neglected certain aspects of it that I didn't really think about. So I'm going to have to do some editing to kind of tie everything together a little more, which shouldn't be too difficult. It's just something I didn't think about until now. So I'll be doing that today as well. Let's see. This feels pretty. Yep. All right. Good. Everything looks like it's still wet and usable. We'll see. I don't know that I can finish this today. I'd love to, because I would like to be able to move on to something else. Because I have a few things I need to get started on. I have a painting I owe a friend for, uh, well, it's kind of a collaboration, honestly, but I need to get started on that. So there's that. And then, yeah, just a lot of other things. So I realized that my videos that I make, um, you know, I know what's it called? Like, as far as like video editing goes and stuff like that, like it's very minimal and, intentionally so, right? Like it's not designed to be, you know, high end vlogs or anything like that. Um, I don't think I would be up for shooting that even if I wanted to. Um, but I have been uh, learning more video editing stuff, and so there might be some, fancy like visual effects that I can add. Not that those really make for the videos any better. I do recognize that, especially not with my kind of content, but we'll see. It's just something I've been getting into recently for my own videos and for other things unrelated specifically to my videos. We shall see. Alrighty. All right. Let's see if I can, or let's see how I should start this rather. Alrighty. So there's some things here that need fixing. So let's start with some easy, low stakes drawing stuff. Things that are easy to draw and very clear. Oh, this stuff is dry. Oops. All right. Thought everything was still wet, but apparently not. Alrighty. Not a problem I normally have, but can't see the phthalo green over the very dark areas. Normally it's such a bright color, it's not a problem, but it is a transparent color, so I guess on the right circumstances, it can be a problem. Even the magenta is hard to see over very dark areas. I mean, I can see it, it's just a little hard. Oh, shoot. I'm so silly. All right. My brain was not turned on yet, apparently. I forgot. Before I can start painting, I need to oil out. Totally blanked on that. So there's a few reasons to oil out if anyone isn't familiar with the process. The idea is that you put a very thin layer of oil. Some people insist that you need to sand it a little. I don't like sanding, even wet sanding my paint. I'm not a fan. Um, I just don't want to get those dust particles out there. You know, but yeah. Um, but the reason for oiling out is it in case any of the colors have sunken, become like more matte. This brings back their color to what it's supposed to be, so you can see it better. And then also it reduces the dry brush effect, so it makes it look like more like you painted it in one sitting versus multiple. Um, but even if that's not what you're going for, it just reduces the dry brush effect, which don't get me wrong, is a fine effect to have. But it also helps all the paint move better as you're painting. So you don't have to oil out. It is very much a choice, um, not a necessity. Although the color thing can be an issue because it, when colors sync, it can be hard to gauge what their, color actually is. And then when you varnish, it can bring back that color. So it could result in you painting something too dark or too light, and then when you varnish, you can see like it ends up being like a huge difference. So it can be an issue, to be aware of. But not all paint sinks, and not always required. I have a hard time seeing where I've oiled out, so I go real low so I can see the shine, because the idea is you want just a little bit of oil, very, very little as possible, while still having it oil out. Hey, Des, it's Wednesday. I know it's Wednesday. I almost forgot I had to stream today. I was got everything so mixed up. You know, lost track of everything and almost didn't stream today. How are you doing, Des? Um, you missed the beginning of the stream. I talked about not that it matters. But I talked about the painting for your project. I varnished it 2 nights ago, last night, and so I will be taking photos of it, by the end of the week, and then I can send it off. So yeah, um, and does us been if I've been keeping busy? Oh yeah, I've been keeping busy. How about you? How have you been? I've been very busy. A lot of different things, which I can discuss at some point. But yeah, definitely busy. Obviously not on this painting. I left this for stream. Lots of plans, but can't seem to start my projects. Yeah, that can be tough sometimes. Sometimes, like right now, I have something kind of like that. It's not that I can't start, it's that I've got all these different things going on at, parallel kind of. So sometimes it feels like nothing is going anywhere. But yeah, it can be frustrating. So yeah, that can definitely be frustrating. Um, all right, let's see here. So when I started today, I was talking about the fact that there's a lot of things I'm happy with in this painting, but there's also a bunch of things I need to, like, small adjustments, but also like the overall painting needs some work. I need to kind of tie everything together a little more. So I'll be doing that today. And that's the goal at least. But yeah, I've been unrelated, like, well, it's kind of related to my videos, but not solely related to my videos. I've just been learning how to do, more stuff with the video editing related stuff. So I started learning how to use the, you know, the program I have to do like, you know, graphics and what's it called? Like uh the word I'm looking for, like motion graphics type of stuff. Not that I think that that stuff makes my videos any better, but necessarily. But you know, it's good to know how to use the software that you have. It's very strange. When I first started using the software, there was a lot on it that was like so difficult, and I was like, I do not understand this. I don't know how to use this. I don't get this at all. And then at some point, I started trying it again, and I was like, oh, this kind of makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. There's still a lot of like overly complicated stuff in the software, unfortunately. But so makes it that stuff makes it unbelievably unintuitive to use, but it's um, still interesting to learn. It is so ridiculously hot in here. Don't get it. I just turned my fan up a little. Let me know if you hear it and if it's a problem. It's so hot. I don't think you'll hear it when I'm not talking, but I'm worried that it'll be like a noise that you hear when I am talking. Guess I could try to listen to my own stream. Oh, come on. All right, here we go. Let's see. Try to listen to my own stream. Okay, so now when I talk, do you hear music? I was going to stream the other day, but we're in a heat wave, and if I have um, two PCs on, especially the one in my digital work, no, okay, no music. Okay, okay. It says it gets so hot in my room because of the digital work and the two PCs. Oh yeah, yeah. So you'll have to wait until it's cooler because the AC is too loud. Okay. Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you want help trying to adjust your audio so that it doesn't pick up as much of the background stuff, I can suggest some things that might help. But there is a limit to those things, of course. Yeah, I have noise suppression on because my dogs and other people living here. Yeah, yeah, but there's different degrees of noise suppression and there's different, types of noise suppression. Not saying that you don't know what you're doing, but uh, sometimes a second pair of eyes can help, with that stuff. Sometimes you can't, you know. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. But yeah, there's you know, obviously there's different programs, different, settings, all that all that. So it just depends. Like if you have a, and I don't know if you do, but if you have a good NVIDIA card, they have probably the best noise suppression out there. If you don't, and it doesn't have to be the newest card, just I think from the 20 series up, I think they have the best noise suppression. At least last time I checked. But there are other options out there. Yeah, I have an NVIDIA, but not sure what version on my old PC I stream from. Yeah, so it just depends on the version. Actually, you know what? I think it might have been from the 10 series. If you have an older one, then I don't think you can use it. But if you have one that is like I think from the 10 series, um, but I'm not positive about that, then you can download their broadcast software, and that has, I think, the best noise canceling or noise suppression out there. At least last time I looked at it. I don't have one, so I can't use it anyways, but I know of it. Hey, Cassandra, welcome. How are you doing today? You're awake? That's good. Awake is good. Although sleeping is also good. That's as good as you got right now? That's fair. That's how it is sometimes. It's all right. If you want to see a cute Dresden, rewind to the beginning of this stream. But it's nothing you haven't seen before, I'm just saying. It is very hot in my room today. It's driving me crazy a little bit. My beard is getting caught on my microphone. It's a very minor thing. It's annoying me. Mhm. All right. Right now I'm just fixing errors. Well, placement errors, we'll call them. And then I'll be going in and kind of working to resolve some of the, you know, particular issues. What am I saying? Yeah, resolve any issues with the, mold the face and everything. And then one of the big things I need to do with this painting is kind of work on it a bit to tie everything together a little more. Because right now it's a little fractured. And that was originally by design, but I need to, despite that, kind of bring it together a little bit more. It worked a little too well, and now I need to fix it. One of the big issues I have with this painting right now is the paint I'm using on it. Is phthalo blue and phthalo green from quinacridone rose, which is a very strong color too. So, um, and the issue with that is I tend to use only one brush. And so these colors are colors that really infect the brush, like will not leave it alone. So when I go from one color to the next, it doesn't, it wants, like they all want to tag along. I don't really like to clean my brush all constantly or use multiple brushes. So, yeah. Okay. Let me pause this recording for a second. Just a second. All right, I'm still here. I just need to adjust something real quick. The fan is unfortunately not doing a good enough job. So I'm going to use a different fan. And hopefully this will work better. Fingers crossed. Thing is, it's not just about being like uncomfortably hot because, if I can manage with that, my camera will also overheat if I can't bring the temperature down a bit in the room. I am going to regret painting this purely for the stars, I think. I'm kidding, but they are annoying to paint. Sometimes good designs, you know, are just annoying. Spider-Man is an example. I love Spider-Man and do like his original costume, but I've drawn it before and that is a nightmare. Also, it doesn't really work. Like I don't like I think it's technically impossible. They have to like cheat it to make it work, I think. Because the way the webs like spread out, I think they have to add in webs as it spreads over his costume so that it like makes sense. Could be wrong, but when I've drawn it, I've always thought, I need to like create more to like in like places that you shouldn't be like creating more. I don't know. It's a great costume, but you know, such a pain to draw, especially if you have to draw it over and over and over again. Okay, no problem, Des. All right, so oh, one or two more spots here, real quick, and then I will get on to like what I consider more painting than drawing. But yeah. All right, now before I get too much, well, okay, scatterbrained a little bit, but before, let's fill in some areas and then get into the like unification kind of thing. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Keep getting distracted and forgetting. Keep meaning to go back to this spot right here. Alrighty. There we go. Okay. Now let's kind of try and tie everything together a bit more here. This painting needs it. So what happened with this painting, when I started it, I had the concept of using the colors, the green and rose, which I've done before, and I think they're a great combination. But then I had the idea to highlight the flag because it was 4th of July. So I was like, okay, flag is red and blue, so we'll highlight that and so on. And that, makes sense to highlight. Like the concept makes sense to me. In my brain, it makes sense at least. But the issue is that now it feels very separated from each other. Everything feels very choppy. And that wasn't originally the plan. So I want to bring some of that back. And the way I'm going to do that is mostly with the green. Because the idea was that the green is kind of the shadows, sort of. I say sort of because it's not 100% like green is shadows, red, rose is light. It's not quite perfectly, uh, separated that way, but there is a degree of that. So I'm going to lean into that and bring in some of that green into the darker areas, even on the flag. And then the other thing is too, the brushwork. It's interesting. There's a degree of like loose and smooth. And I want to, you know, unify some of that as well. So yeah, I think this is starting to really kind of tie some of this all together. We want to be careful though, because I don't want it to look like it's the Matrix necessarily, but I'd rather it look like the Matrix and more unified than not, you know. And then because I was kind of separating things, I also separated out the jacket, which was completely unnecessary. I do like the blue in the jacket because it, if because I don't add any warmth into the jacket, it makes it feel, you know, because I don't add rose, it makes it feel colder, less alive, and more of an object than, you know, the warmth of his skin, which helps him stand out a bit more. So I do like that aspect. I think the white of the stripes also needs to be adjusted a bit. They're a bit too reddish at the moment. That's probably just because of brush contamination more than anything else, but yeah. So the rose and the what's it called? And the green mix really well together, and they make it either a black, or if you add white, you know, gray, or like a really good gray. So they're colors that mix really well together. Yeah, the light of the um, white stripes. I think I'm going to put a little yellow into it. Let's see. Because at the moment, it's just a little too red. And I don't necessarily want it to be red. That looks a little too, I think, harsh though. Also, it looks green. Probably because my brush has a ton of phthalo still stuck in it. Which is to be expected. Alrighty. Also, why is this white so sticky? Everything else is fresh. Hi, Tristan. Now, in theory, I should just be able to use black, and that should be all I need for the gray, for the white stripes to gray it down, but I don't think it reads as well. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, we are taking a cat break. Hi, Tristan. Hi, little boy. Ow, that hurts. Your tongue's so scratchy. Ow. Okay, okay. That's enough scratching me with your tongue. I don't know if you can see his little paws. He's gently kneading my shoulder. Very, very gently. He's so cute. Thank you, little boy. Sandra says love hurts sometimes, especially with cats. Yeah, it does. A lot with cats. The boy just wants to lick me right now, apparently, and that sounds wrong, but yeah. But he is just going to town on my hand now. Thank you, little boy. Oh, you want to go now? Okay. You can go in just a second. Say goodbye to everybody. Oh, jeez. Jeez. Mm. All right, I have to check something on my computer real quick. 7, 18. Okay. Alrighty. I was going to run out of storage on my card, so I was transferring over stuff. Fine, because I only have 2 cards to use. Well, that's not true. I have a third one I recently found that's a lot smaller, but at least, there's something there. Backup, I guess. Yeah, what's it called? Video just takes so much space. It's crazy. Um, yeah, wow. Okay then. That's not good. My all of my storage is filling up. I have a what's it called? External hard drive that's like 16 terabytes and it's only got like three left. Not sure what I'm gonna do once I start like really hitting the limit. And the obvious answer is buy more storage, but not always, not always an option. Anyways, make here a little. There we go. All right, I don't normally use Gamsol while I paint. I'm going to use a tiny amount right now. Just to help with this white paint. Alrighty. Now I don't feel like this gray. Let's see. Well, I guess it's clean now, so it kind of works. Don't want to grab green right now because it'll just taint the gray. So I will focus on the lighter areas right now. Crazy how like dark these, lights are and how like light they seem on the painting. Hello, Leo Marino. Welcome. I don't quite understand what you're saying. I apologize. I don't know what language that is off the top of my head. French, I'm assuming? Could be wrong. I like it. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Thank you. How are you doing today? From Brazil. Ah, Brazil. Okay. So, Portuguese, right? I, I'm so bad with languages, but all right. I might be right about that. We'll see. Or I'm making a fool of myself. Happens. But welcome. How are you doing today? My brain took a second. I saw Des asked Leo if he's an artist, but I read it. My dyslexia sometimes gets the lines mixed up. So I was like, it looked like Leo was asking me if I'm an artist, and I'm like, well, yeah, obvious. It's like, wait, I'm so confused. What's going on? Took me a second. That's funny. But yeah, Leo, are you an artist? Okay, yes. Nice. What kind of art do you like to do? Oh, shoot, I messed that up. All right, there we go. Fixed it. Leo, have you been in my chat before? Um, I'm really bad with names, so I apologize if you have and I don't remember, but I don't think I feel like I would remember the name Leo, but I've had people from Brazil before, and I had a once an artist, but this was on I think on Twitch, who used to come into my chats a lot from Brazil. Just I wasn't sure if I'm getting people mixed up or not. Obviously, I realize there's more than two artists in Brazil. Just just curious. All right. Uh, oh, you like my art? Thank you. I appreciate that. The paint is it said oh, to paint live is very difficult. Yeah, yeah. You get used to it. But it definitely wears me out. Like after finish streaming, I'm like completely exhausted. I don't realize it while I'm streaming so much, but once I'm done, I am like completely drained and I struggle. I usually have a hard time doing anything else after my stream for a while because of just how much it like wears me out. Like I said, I don't even realize it most of the time while I'm streaming, but afterwards, yeah. I'm not understand English talking. My English is very basic, very basic. No worries. You know, if you don't understand something, you are welcome to ask me to try and explain it. If I can, I will. Um, you know, I'll do my best, but no problem. What type of art do you like to make? This is oil paints. Mhm. I used to work digitally, so I'm very familiar with digital processes and everything. And I've used gouache and watercolor. I've used acrylic, but it's been a long time and I don't really get along well with acrylic anymore. Okay. Well, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you coming in and chatting. I hope you have a great day. You're going to subscribe to my channel now. Bye. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. I appreciate that. Have a good night. All right. So one of the things that is one of those one of the I want to say one of the difficult things in painting, because so many things are difficult and also not, I guess, but most things are. But recognizing when things, like blend together and when they don't, and trying to manage that, is can definitely be challenging. And the tendency is to want to, separate things that, even though they might blend together, are like actually separate things, so that, people can understand what they're looking at, which, obviously makes sense, right? You want to paint, you want people to understand what they're looking at. However, I do feel like a lot of times we have a tendency to overdo that and really kind of blending things together ends up, even though it's less clear sometimes, it it makes more sense to us as people, because when we look at things, some things just blend together. And we're used to that. So it's definitely challenging, because sometimes it can make things kind of fall apart, and obviously not good when you're doing a painting. All right, Des. I'll see you in 15-ish minutes. I hope you have a good walk with the dogs. I think his nose, yeah, needs a slight adjustment here. Okay. All right. Just making sure. That is one thing about streaming. There's always so many like things to take care of, to watch constantly. In case anyone's wondering, he has a nose ring, and that's the chain from the nose ring. They're like, what is going on there? That's what's going on there. That might be a mistake. This is supposed to be like the lighter areas, but this white I don't think is even light enough for everything. I'm gonna have to go anyways. Maybe a few spots need a little lighter. Messed up some of these areas. Probably have to go back in and fix it, but oh well. The reason I'm using a brush to say that it's too large is not accurate, but it is large enough that I am making mistakes because of it sometimes. However, I'm willing to make those mistakes for the benefit of using a larger brush. Which, if you're wondering, what are the benefits of using a larger brush? Um, Stops me from dealing too much with the details, for one. And then it has a tendency to unify the shapes a bit more, because you can't go in and get like all this detail of the texture of the shapes. So you get more of the form versus the texture of it, which obviously there's a place for getting the texture right. However, a lot of times when you do that, you can mess up the form. So you got to be careful with it, like, everything. And when it comes to trying to like have a bit of a looser, more gestural looking painting, bigger brushes help too. Obviously, smaller brushes have their place. It would be absurd to say they didn't, but there's definitely a benefit to using larger brushes. The way a lot of teachers that I know teach it is use the biggest brush you feel comfortable for what you're working on, and then go up one or two. That's the brush you should probably be using for most of the painting. Of course, this is all theoretical and just a matter of like habits and everything, because there are some like phenomenal, you know, professional painters who use like very small brushes from the start. So it's not a rule or anything, but you know, there's definitely reasons behind it. Um, Andrew Kadima is a great example of someone who um, uses a lot of small brushes a lot of times. Sure, he uses large brushes as well, but you see, he does a lot of painting with small brushes as well. He really does love a teeny brush. Yeah, he does. Um, I do wonder if part of that is due to his palette, like what he's done to his palette. I wonder if like those two um, issues are related to each other in some manner. Like, does his palette look that way because he likes teeny brushes, or did he slowly move into teenier and teenier brushes because of his palette, and so on? And I get it. I used to love teeny brushes as well, but as I got, more into oil painting, I'm trying to push myself out of using teeny brushes all the time. Cassandra, I don't know if you were here the last time I talked about it, but um, that that recent short I made, not the one of the abstract painting, not the burnt sienna one, but the abstract painting one. I don't know if you were here last time I talked about it, but it turns out that not everybody was in on the joke. Some people really thought that's how I do my paintings, um, or they just did not understand what was happening. So, oh no, yeah, unfortunately, yes. Thought it would be clear, especially because like I picked a square painting to show afterwards, and it's a small square painting versus the like large rectangular canvas and everything. And I think I even put satire as one of the tags. Um, but yeah. So yeah, felt a little bad about that. It's always tough to know what people will get and what they won't. It's very, very challenging. I have another idea. Well, I have a lot of ideas for content. Um, but uh, one of the ideas I have is more of a joke than serious. Now I'm just wondering if I should, like just reconsider it or what. Probably go through with it anyways. Because, you know, oh well, some people didn't get the joke. But yeah. Jokes on the internet can be difficult. Oh, absolutely. I know I've missed my fair share of jokes. Um, it happens. At least I will say this, at least like no one, you know, got offended in any way, That's always like the thing. Not that I could understand, like I couldn't understand why someone would get offended by that joke, but I have in general, I definitely have like an inappropriate humor and like dark humor a lot of times, and I definitely have to be a little more cautious about stuff like that. because not everybody shares those perspectives. And I've never been of the mindset that like you should censor yourself so you don't like piss people off. But, at the same time, there's knowing your crowd or who you're talking to, at the moment. And when you're just throwing things out there, you don't. So that's when you're a little more, or I am a little more cautious with things. And then I've learned that uh, the hard way, so to speak. I've had so many things. What was it? Um, like I was visiting family once, and um, me and my stepsister went out to see a movie. She was younger than me, and I don't remember how who decided on the movie or how whatever, but it ended up being like a really like a what's it called? Very crass you know, um comedy. And she was pretty young at the time, and it was just uh I just felt so uncomfortable the whole time because I'm like, she is definitely too young for this movie. Um yeah. I don't remember like how that happened. I don't know who was, quote unquote at fault, but whatever. Nothing, major happened, but it was just I've had those moments where I'm like, this is not this is not the crowd for this. And I think one thing that I think is interesting, I think sometimes people you know, who have like edgier senses of humor or whatever it might be, sometimes have this like negative outlook towards people who might not share their degree of like, you know, edgy humor or whatever. Um, and I think I definitely used to fall into that category, but I don't anymore. I just, I realize like not everything's for everybody. It's fine. Not everyone has to like dark humor. Doesn't make them, it doesn't say anything about them. Just they don't, it's not for them. That's fine. Welcome back, Des. Were the dogs well behaved on their walk? Yes, but it's too hot, so my daughter is soaking them down in cold water. Oof. Yeah. I'm actually surprised about that. I looked up information because, I want to, there have been times where I've wanted to take Wizard out and I'm like, checking what what is too hot for a dog or for, Wizard specifically, not just any dog. But yeah, I was surprised to find out like, you know, I think it's like anything over like 85 or something. I was kind of surprised by that. And I know to check the ground of I know about that. So I would check anyways. It's not just about that. It's dark out, no sun to beat down on them, but there's no air movement at all. Yeah. I think the sun finally went down. Looks like it. My dogs are seniors, so I have to be careful. Yeah, so is Wizard. Wizard's a senior as well. We got him late in life. Ooh, I need to give my camera a moment to cool down. Can't believe how old Dresden is already. Every time he has a birthday, I'm like, wait, that can't be. He's still like 2. He's not 2. I think he's like 5 now. It's crazy how fast time flies. I'm starting to get to the point where in this painting, I feel like, um, huh, now that I'm looking at it, I feel like I have to adjust some of these shadows a little bit. Yeah. But I'm getting to the point where it's, obviously I still need to keep an eye on the reference, but I feel like there's a point where you have to kind of let go of the reference and just start making it look good. You know what I mean? Yeah, obviously you have to keep looking at the reference and keep things in mind, but at a certain point you need to also just like be like, okay, even if it's different, I just need to make it look good regardless. I feel like it's kind of getting to that area now. Although I can see some areas that I need to make some adjustments. This is a problem I run into when it gets too hot. Hard to get my gloves back on. I almost wish I didn't paint this painting the way that I did in retrospect. I wish I had started it or gone about doing it differently. If I had to do it again, I do think I would approach it very differently. And if you're wondering how would I approach it differently, um, I think if I were to do this painting again, I think what I would do is I would paint it with just my two colors, uh, well, and white. I guess I'm black, so four. But black is just a convenience color at that point because these two colors together make a black. So the black really is very much a convenience color. But yeah, not the white. The white is necessary. Um, but I think I would use just the two, the rose and the emerald and white. That would be, I'd paint the whole thing like that. And then once I'm done with the painting, I would go in and add the red and the blue. I think that's how I would approach it if I were to do it again. There probably would be disadvantages to doing it that way as well, but compared to the way I am doing it, but yeah, I think that's how I'd approach it. So the reason I'm lightening up, I'm lightening up these areas is because when I squint, this and his jacket are very separate. So I clearly overdid it with how dark I went. It's interesting when you're working with color this way, you almost get like well, you can do it with regular color too, to be fair, but it's much more apparent how much of a like cheat code you have to do certain things. Like I said, you actually have more of it when you're painting full color. However, it's much more obvious in this instance. And what I mean by that is because I have um, like a color that's kind of designated as the shadow color, I can I can separate things with color versus value, like the red here and the green here, even though the value is almost identical. They kind of might not show on your screen on the screen, but I can see red here, green here, and that separates the two. And technically, this should be green because this is kind of one shadow piece, but the value is reading shadow, so it's kind of a cheat. Um, but I feel like it works pretty well. And the reason you have, when you're working full color, you have obviously more colors that you can access. So technically, you can do a lot more with it, but there's so many other variables to constantly keep track of. It can be, you know, difficult. Whereas here, the options are more limited, so it's more obvious, I think. Which I think is a funny thing about art in general. Like a lot of times, the more limitations you have, I don't want to say the better, but like there is a degree of that. The more things are limited, the sometimes the better. Not a like always type of thing. It's like it's always better to have, more limitations, but there's a degree of that, of truth to that. Oh, I don't know if I talked about this because I think I was saving it for the vlog, which I'm still editing for the record. I'm just it's you know, it's going to be a while. I won't lie. It's going to be a while. But I got to see um some Rothko paintings when I was in at the Portrait Society. When I stayed over, I went to I think it's the National um, Museum of Art or something. I forget what it's called technically. But yeah, I got to see some Rothkos in person finally. And they're not the same as the ones in his chapel in Houston. So, maybe I'd feel different if I got to see those. Um, but I can't say that they spoke to me that much, I'll be honest. I was expecting to see more variations in the layers, and I really couldn't see much there. I mean, not saying there wasn't any, but it definitely wasn't as pronounced as I thought it might be. Cassandra says, I didn't expect they would be, to be frank. I'm assuming that's to be frank. Um, or to be fair. To be fair, might be more accurate. I don't know which one it is. Either way, Frank, let's get back to it. Yeah, no, I did expect it more because the way that people talked about his layering system and how much he put into, layering the paint and how many layers and how much and the like nuance of it all um made me think that there would be, more to it. And I don't feel like there was, which then makes it just like big you know, big canvases with like basic squares on it, if that. And, if that's what you like, I am not gonna gatekeep anybody what they like. However, I don't think it's for me. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the talk of it was like how much, you know, how many layers and how much paint and blah. You know, like and not this isn't a Rothko, but there's a painter who did these paintings. They're like red, yellow, I think, and blue or something like that. And they're all like one color, all the same color. But supposedly, like the it's an abstract painting, obviously, but supposedly the texture of the paint varies, and like there's elements to it that make it more interesting to see in person. You can't really convey that except for in person, right? So I thought, and that was kind of how I've heard people talk about Rothko's paintings as well. And there's also something to the size of them, right? Like that there there is something to be said for experiencing something in person because of like the scale as well. But I don't know. These didn't elicit anything in particular for me. I really tried to give him a chance, but I don't know, didn't do it. I also heard something really interesting, and I don't know how true this is. Um, but I did hear that supposedly it's one of those things where it's like I really want to look into this. I keep saying that, but I never do it. Partially because I'm not sure really where I can go to find accurate information. Um, but I heard that supposedly the CIA helped fund Rothko and Jackson Pollock um, to like boost their name and their value as part of the Cold War. And I don't know how true that is. I will say this though, my opinion on abstract art and everything has changed a bit over the years, and it is more of a like, I don't agree with like there's definitely some art out there that's just like, come on, this like to me doesn't I don't see this as being, art or whatever. But, you know, I I'm not going to gatekeep it. Like if that's what people want, that's what people want. Fine. That's for them. If you want to get excited about a banana taped to a wall, you know, I think it's silly, but I'm not going to, say it's not art and so on. Although I do think I will say I do think what was it, the invisible statue that's just like tape on the floor and there's nothing in it. It's the air that's in the square of tape. I feel like that's just a very successful con artist, you know. Another interesting thing about, well, I think this is true about most things, most painting, but because of the limitations here, I think it's interesting. The more saturated you go with your colors, a lot of times, the darker they go. And so you can really push the saturation in certain areas as it goes dark. Because of the limited color, you don't have to worry about like spilling into like the wrong colors um, by accident. So you can really up the saturation in certain areas, which I think is interesting. Des says so many distractions, but I think the boys are settled down now. Nice. I know Don Lee saw it, but has anybody seen the new Superman movie? I have not. Don't worry, no spoilers for me. Nope, not interested. Fair enough, Des. I heard the dog steals the show. Des says I heard that it's leaning towards the comics more than previous movies. Yeah, I've heard good things about it overall. honestly. I just, you know, I don't know that I'll see it in movies, in theaters, but heard good things. Superman can be a very difficult character to get right, and he's never been my favorite. I always preferred like Spider-Man and Batman, but it's interesting, they can be fun, interesting characters. I think it's interesting how in the comics, and I'm not the biggest DC Comics expert, but in in the comics, Superman seems to kind of like he has, every how can I put this? Every character has like their, the family of the, the supporting cast of the character, the friends, the family members, stuff like that. And it seems like Superman always kind of um like pushes them off in some way to some degree. I'm not saying that he doesn't stay in contact with them or anything, but it's very much like, okay, I want to be alone kind of thing. I don't know. It seems that way to a degree. Um, Whereas Batman, who's like the loner, is always like surrounded by people constantly who will not leave him alone. I think it's kind of funny. Well, to be fair, Batman doesn't have a pet, as far as I know, unless you count the bats. We count the bats. I wouldn't count the bats. Not that bats can't be pets, but too many of them. I wouldn't count them. By the way, for anyone who likes dark humor or D&D, I recently, and some of this is old, so it's one of those things where I just discovered it, but I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. I think it's called Sad Soup, the what is it? Chaotic Good Barbarian. Very, very funny, very dark. Um, but if you like D&D and D and you like dark comedies stuff, there's a bunch of short videos. They are very, very funny. Let's see. Des says, Iliad, we usually put a bio of the artist at the exhibit. So do you want me to pull something from one of your socials or do you want to give me something specific? I actually have to write a bio for someone else, so I will send it to you. And if you think I need to adjust it, or something, you can let me know. Um, you know, but yeah, okay. All right, great. Trying to get a little more saturation in his jaw and ended up kind of messing it up a little bit. So need to recover some of that. Yeah, I messed that up a bit. Oh well. Yeah, this I probably should put out some new white. This white is starting to set a little too much. my brush, just I'm trying to get a whiter color, but the color in my brush is so strong that it just infuses everything. Uh, there we go. That's better. This is why a lot of people use multiple brushes. It is smart and probably more economical as well. As far as like you don't what's it called? You don't waste as much paint. You still need to buy more brushes. You don't waste as much paint, which is great. I just can't do it. When I try and use multiple brushes, I I lose track of which brush is which, and I end up just they all just end up as the same. So I use multiple brushes mostly for um, what's it called? Size at this point. This is I've been binging Portrait Artist of the Year, old seasons the last few days. I need to just pick up the brush and paint. Well, go for it. What usually gets you, I assume, wait, actually, I don't know. Des, do you have ADHD or something? I think we've talked about it. I don't remember. If you don't feel comfortable saying, you don't have to. I thought I remember talking about it. A lot of people I know have ADHD. It's ridiculous. And even if you don't, I'm just curious, what usually gets you motivated? Like what is it that motivates you to get things done? I think I have autism. My son was diagnosed as a kid, and we know it's hereditary. My whole family has versions of the spectrum. The kids are all being diagnosed, but the adults didn't. It just wasn't around. Plus, they didn't recognize it in girls. Sure, I get that. So I know, if I'm not mistaken, they got rid of Asperger's, um, and now they just call it, autism. And if I remember correctly, Asperger's has a very like negative, you know, source, like a if I'm not mistaken. Um, but I am still kind of sad that they got rid of Asperger's just because it's funny to say for literally no other reason. Um, that says I don't know what motivates me. Usually deadlines or seeing something I really want to paint. But I'm having issues with being interrupted all the time. Not distractions, but interruptions. And I dread starting something and getting interrupted. I feel that it it's tough when you're working to like interruptions can really, really mess up your flow and everything. Andrew says, I am awful about being interrupted, makes me so grumpy. Yeah, I feel that. It says, yeah, my son and sister's son got the diagnosis in the 90s, Asperger's. Yeah. I just okay, I remember Asperger's from um Futurama. And it was funny. That's it. It's literally it. Although I think he had something else, bonitis or something. The other guy, I don't know. Maybe might be getting things mixed up, but I remember it from somewhere, and I remember it just being funny. That's it. As it says, my cousin's son's autism is a bit more severe. My niece's son is ADHD and autism. And that's a lot. All right. Let's see. Oof. Alrighty. It says I'm going to get assessed. I told my sister to as well because they are struggling with their jobs and caring for themselves. If my daughter wasn't living with me, I'd be having more problems. Yeah, it can be tough to deal with, for sure. Alrighty. I am going to have to call it a day. Um, I definitely need to take a longer break and go eat something. So, um, I didn't quite finish the painting, but definitely made some good progress. Everything is like, uh, starting to come together more. Um, so yeah, we'll see if I have time, I'll finish it on my own time, but I'm not sure. So we'll see. But it's definitely coming together. Yeah. Have a good night and we'll see you Sunday. Yeah, I will be back on Sunday. Um, all right, everyone. Have a good night. I know it's pretty late for some people. So, yeah, have a good one, everyone, and have a good rest of your week. We'll see you Sunday. Bye.